A heartbreaking and shocking incident once took place in Ghana's Volta region, an event that would leave many speechless and wondering how dreams could turn so quickly into tragedy. It all began with a young man known by his friends as Destiny. Destiny was barely 18 years old, full of life, passion, and high hopes for a better tomorrow. From childhood, he had carried inside him the burning desire to become something great, an artist, a content creator, and a professional gamer. He loved music, technology, and the idea of using his talent to change history. He often told his close friends that one day, people would know his name all across Africa. But Destiny's life was not an easy one. He came from a humble background, a struggling family where every day was a battle to survive. His parents did everything they could, but the little they earned was barely enough to feed the family, let alone support his ambitions or education. As time went by, the young boy began to feel the heavy weight of reality. His dreams seemed too big for the small environment he grew up in, and opportunities were scarce. But Destiny was determined. He refused to give up on himself. He made a tough decision, to leave home at a very young age and travel to Ghana in search of a better life. For him, Ghana was a land of opportunity. He believed that if he could just get there, things would change. He would work hard, make money, chase his dreams, and one day return home a success. He wanted to make his parents proud, to lift them out of poverty and show them that their son had made it. When he finally arrived in Ghana, life didn't welcome him with open arms. It was difficult, new environment, no family, no solid support system. Yet, Destiny kept pushing. He tried his hands on different things just to survive. In the evenings, he would talk to himself about his plans, about how he would one day become a star, no matter how long it took. It was during this period of struggle that Destiny met a young man named Perry. At first, Perry seemed like a blessing, friendly, confident, and full of stories about success and brotherhood. Destiny admired him. Perry looked like someone who understood how the world worked, someone who could guide him on how to survive in Ghana. But Destiny didn't know that this meeting would change everything. It would mark the beginning of a chapter in his life that would lead him down a path he never imagined. What started as an innocent friendship would soon take a different turn, one that would connect Destiny to a circle that would shape his fate forever. This was where the storm began to gather, the beginning of a story that would shock many across the Volta region, leaving people asking how a young man with such big dreams could end up in such a painful and unexpected way. The exact story of how Destiny met Perry has never been completely clear. Different people tell it in different ways. Some say Destiny met Perry after arriving in Ghana, that fate simply brought them together and Perry kindly offered him a place to stay. Others claim that Perry had already known Destiny from home and was the one who invited him to come over to Ghana in the first place, promising him that life there would be better. Whichever story is true, one fact remains certain: Destiny eventually began living with Perry. And from that moment, his life would never be the same again. At first, everything seemed normal. Perry appeared to be a caring and confident young man who had made something for himself in Ghana. He had a nice apartment where several other young men also lived. Destiny thought he had finally found a group of people who understood his struggle, people who could show him how to survive in a foreign land. But there was more to Perry and his household than met the eye. Perry was not just an ordinary young man trying to make ends meet. He was deeply involved in a powerful organization known as the Maphites Confraternity. Within their circle in Ghana's Volta region, Perry wasn't just a regular member, he was the number 3 man, one of the top-ranking figures among them. His house, which Destiny had now moved into, was known in the neighborhood as an HK house. This name was used to describe houses where young men engage in certain kinds of online dealings, trying to make quick money through internet activities. Inside that house, laptops were always open, phones kept buzzing, and conversations often revolved around updates, a term they used to describe new business opportunities or digital moves they were planning to make. People around the area knew Perry's house as a place where these young men worked day and night, strategizing, chatting with people online, and sharing whatever they made among themselves. To an outsider, it might look like a regular home filled with hardworking youths chasing online success. But to those who knew the inside story, there was an unwritten rule that guided the entire operation. Before anyone could become a full member of the HK house, there was one strict requirement: the person had to belong to the Maphites Confraternity. It wasn't optional. According to Perry and his close friends, this rule was meant to create trust and loyalty among the boys. They believed that once someone became a member, he could be trusted completely because they now shared a secret bond that went beyond friendship. For Destiny, who had come to Ghana with dreams of making a living, this rule would eventually become a turning point in his story. At first, he didn't fully understand the depth of what he was getting into. He only saw young men who seemed to be doing well, dressing fine, living comfortably, and always talking about money. It all looked like the success he had always prayed for. Little did Destiny know that behind the laughter and late-night music in that house, there were hidden dangers. That house, where he thought he had found peace and brotherhood, was slowly becoming a trap, one that would draw him deeper into a world that promised wealth but demanded more than he could imagine. As days passed, Destiny grew closer to Perry and began to learn more about the group's operations and the code that governed their every move. The deeper he got, the more he realized that life inside Perry's world was far from ordinary. It was a life ruled by secrecy, loyalty, and unspoken risks. And soon, Destiny would have to make a choice that would determine the path his life would take from that moment forward. Before meeting Perry, Destiny had never in his life imagined himself being connected to any secret brotherhood or group. He was a peaceful young man with a clear goal, to chase his dreams, make a living, and support his struggling family. The idea of joining any confraternity had never crossed his mind. But now, life had backed him into a corner. Living in Perry's house came with a condition, one that Destiny never expected when he first moved in. It wasn't just about living under the same roof, it came with a price. The rule in that house was simple but heavy: anyone who stayed there had to belong to the Maphites Confraternity. There were no exceptions. When Perry finally told Destiny about this rule, it hit him like cold water. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. For a moment, he tried to argue his way out of it, hoping his friendship with Perry would make him an exception. But Perry made it clear the house had its laws, and everyone living there had to abide by them. Destiny suddenly found himself trapped between two painful choices. If he agreed to join, it meant becoming part of something he never believed in, something that went against everything he stood for. But if he refused, he would have to leave the house and face the world alone. He had no savings, no job, and nowhere else to go. He would either sleep on the streets or return home to Nigeria with nothing to show for his journey. It was like being caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. Perry didn't make things easier. He gave Destiny an ultimatum, a short period to decide whether he wanted to stay or leave. The pressure was intense. Days turned into sleepless nights as Destiny struggled within himself. He thought about all the sacrifices he had made to travel to Ghana. He thought about his parents back home, how they had placed their hopes on him. Going back empty-handed would break them. After much hesitation, Destiny made a decision that would shape his destiny forever. According to some people, he agreed to join the confraternity willingly because he didn't want to return home in shame. But others believed he had no real choice, that the pressure was too much, that he was forced into it. Whichever version is true, one thing is clear: Destiny eventually became part of the Maphites Confraternity in Ghana. At the top of this group in the Volta region was a young man known as Sly. He was their leader, and just like Perry and Destiny, Sly was also from Edo State, Nigeria. Together, they formed a network of young Nigerians trying to survive and make a living far from home. After joining, Destiny tried to stay focused. Deep down, he still held on to his original goal: to make money, to succeed, and to build a better life. He told himself that if he could just endure this phase, one day he would rise above it and achieve his dreams. He didn't want his journey to Ghana to end in regret. Every day, Destiny woke up with determination. Even though he had entered a world he never wanted to be part of, he kept reminding himself that this was only temporary, that life sometimes pushes people into corners where they must make tough decisions to survive. He believed that with time, hard work, and smart choices, he could turn things around. He had sacrificed a lot already, even joined a brotherhood he never imagined being part of. But in his mind, he kept one thought alive: this sacrifice must not be in vain. For Destiny, it was all about survival, success, and redemption. He was convinced that no matter how dark his path seemed now, he could still find light at the end of the tunnel if only he could hold on long enough. Destiny's troubles in the HK house began quietly, but before long, they grew into something far more serious than anyone could have imagined. What started as a simple misunderstanding would eventually lead to one of the most tragic events to ever shake that community. It all began when the mood in the house started to change. The boys who once laughed and shared meals together began to grow suspicious of one another. There were whispers about missing money, and soon all fingers began to point at Destiny. According to reports, Perry, the chairman of the HK House and the number 3 man of the Maphites Confraternity in the Volta region, accused Destiny of being dishonest in their financial dealings. He claimed that a sum of $2,500, which was meant to be shared among everyone working in the house, had somehow gone missing. Perry confronted Destiny directly, demanding an explanation. The entire house gathered as the tension rose. Destiny, shocked and confused, tried to explain himself, but his words didn't seem to make sense to them. He couldn't clearly account for what happened to the money. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, maybe not, but at that moment, the atmosphere in the house became very hostile. The confrontation quickly escalated. Perry, angered by Destiny's silence and unclear explanation, accused him of betrayal. The others, most of them also members of the same confraternity, supported Perry without hesitation. They began to see Destiny as someone who could not be trusted, someone who had broken the bond that held their group together. And then, things took a very dark turn. What followed was a harsh and violent punishment. Destiny was attacked by the same people he had come to see as brothers. It was said that the beating was severe, far beyond what any human body could endure. The once lively young man who came to Ghana with hope and big dreams now found himself lying helpless on the floor, facing unimaginable pain. Word of what was happening eventually reached Sly, the overall leader of the Maphites in that area. When Sly heard what was going on, he reportedly ordered them to stop immediately. He instructed Perry and the others to take whatever money they could recover from Destiny and send him back to Nigeria instead of harming him further. For a moment, it seemed like things would calm down. But unfortunately, that wasn't the end. After Sly left, Perry and the others lost control once again. They ignored the warning and descended on Destiny for the second time. The assault was said to be even more brutal than before. Destiny could no longer cry for help, he was too weak, too broken. And before long, his body gave up. He didn't make it. The young man who came to Ghana with nothing but dreams of success and a hopeful heart lost his life in the very place he thought would change his story. His journey, which began with courage and ambition, ended in silence and sorrow. After realizing what had happened, fear took over the entire house. The same boys who had once been full of confidence were now panicking. At first, they reportedly tried to hide what had happened. They even attempted to bury Destiny secretly around the compound, but later changed their minds. Realizing the weight of what they had done, they abandoned the plan and fled from the house. Later, reports say they contacted the police to inform them about the incident, but till this day, it remains unclear if anyone was ever arrested or brought to justice for what happened to Destiny. The story of Destiny is a heartbreaking reminder of how quickly life can turn when a person makes the wrong choices or keeps the wrong company. He was not born violent. He only wanted to succeed, to change his life and make his parents proud. But unfortunately, the world he stepped into was one filled with danger, mistrust, and betrayal. Let this story be a lesson to every young person out there. No matter how tough life gets, no matter how tempting shortcuts might seem, say no to cultism. The same group that promises to protect you can one day be the very reason your life is cut short. Choose peace. Choose hard work. Choose patience. Success achieved through the right path may take time, but it always lasts. Don't let desperation push you into the wrong crowd. Destiny's story should remind us all that life is precious, and no amount of quick money or false brotherhood is worth losing it for. Say yes to peace. Say no to cultism. Say no to crime.